Start your wellness journey at Whole Foods Market, where it's Jumpstart January through the 16th. Stock up on supplements with some of the year's biggest savings. Plus, save on air-chilled organic boneless skinless chicken breasts, organic Honeycrisp apples, organic large Hass avocados, and more. And since Whole Foods Market is the only certified organic national grocer, it's easy to make them your wellness destination. Jumpstart your January now at Whole Foods Market.
Today on CityCast Denver is brought to you by Tecovas. Western Week continues, and what investigation of Denver's western roots would be complete without a deep dive into the ocean of the plains? I'm talking about Rocky Mountain oysters. Why do people eat them? Do people eat them? We did, at one of Denver's oldest and most storied restaurants, and we've got a full report straight from the source. Today is Thursday, January 11th. I'm Paul Caroli, and here's what Denver's talking about. Newsletter editors Peyton Garcia and Adrian Gonzalez, welcome back to the show.
Hey.
Good morning, Paul.
Good morning. Good morning. We got such a juicy topic today. Some people call them prairie oysters. Some people call it a calf fry. In Mexico, apparently they're called criadillas, but we're talking about Rocky Mountain oysters. Peyton, just let's be honest right up front. What is this? What is a Rocky Mountain oyster?
Rocky Mountain oysters are not oysters. They are bull testicles. Sliced thin, breaded and deep fried, and served with horseradish and cocktail sauce. Yeah.
And we ate them, and we're going to talk about them. But first, this is kind of a thing here, and we should, that's where we should start, because when I moved here, I had never had them. I sort of vaguely understood that people cared about them here, but not really anything about it. Maybe it's a local specialty or a novelty. I was very excited to try them. But you two both grew up here.
Did you know what they were?
I knew what they were. I'd heard about them.
Okay.
I'd heard rumors.
Okay.
They made it all the way out east. Adrian, was this like a part of your life, Rocky Mountain oysters, growing up here?
No, not really. I mean, I think the first time I tried proper Rocky Mountain oysters was at the Buckhorn Exchange in my maybe teenage college years. Mm-hmm. But you mentioned quesadillas in Mexico. My dad actually used to work at a restaurant in Juarez called Lo Rico del Pobre. And it was mostly known for barbacoa and tacos, but they used to serve, it's not like a Rocky Mountain oysters, but it is bull testicles sliced up and put in a taco with other spices and stuff. And I asked him about it this morning. He was not a fan. Would not try them again.
I noticed you didn't compliment my pronunciation, Adrian.
You did pretty well. I was mostly focused on you calling it a juicy conversation. It's an interesting choice of words for this topic.
Yeah, well, we'll get into that too. I don't know how juicy I thought they were in the end, but so Peyton, you've done some research on this for our newsletter, Hey Denver, which you two both write every day for us. What's the deal with these things? Where is it a novelty? Is it a specialty? What is it?
Yeah. So to be clear, they didn't. Colorado can't really claim the origin of eating bull testicles. To be clear, cultures around the globe have been eating all parts of animals for a millennia. Sometimes it's a spiritual reason. Sometimes it's cultural significance. A lot of times it's just because in hunter and gatherer cultures, they don't want to waste food. So we didn't create eating bull testicles, obviously. But in our neck of the woods, in our region, it's mostly associated with Old Western culture and life on the Great Plains. And I think most historians will agree that it was partially like a waste not, want not mentality of that era. It also just makes sense logistically if you're a rancher who's castrating bulls and you've just got this stockpile of surplus meat building up. Why waste it? So I think that's when it was primarily eaten as food. Why it has stuck with Colorado is something different, actually. So I think more that Colorado took the idea and ran with it. So according to DU Associate Professor of History, William Philpott, he says that in that time, in the post-World War II decades of Colorado, state boosters used the idea of Rocky Mountain oysters to pique tourists' interests by romanticizing the idea of cowboy culture. So they were just like, hey, Colorado, we're so cool. Come check us out. We're Old West, like cowboys. And it was kind of seen as something that was like super Colorado, especially in an era of Denver when the city was becoming more and more urban and suburban. And so we were kind of, we were losing our associations, not losing our associations, but we were getting new industries that weren't necessarily ranching and farming and mining. So to like brag about eating bull testicles was a way to be like, I'm so Colorado. And I want to share this quote from Professor Philpott that I think really sums it up. He says, quote, "The association of Rocky Mountain oysters with Colorado had a lot to do with post-World War II Colorado boosters celebrating the dish and holding it up as the kind of thing that defined a real Colorado in a rapidly changing West." And then he says, "What could be more Colorado than cattle, and what could be more manlier than balls?" And there you have it.
The machismo aspect of it is kind of interesting. I hadn't really thought about that, but like this, like, you know, oh, are you gonna eat it? Do you dare try it? Like as a being sort of a fundamental part of this myth making that these folks were doing in that post-war decade. That's very interesting to me. Adrian, does that resonate with you as someone who like loves this, you know, the Western world, the Western lifestyle?
Yeah, as someone who's a man, yeah, definitely. That's what really interests me about it is this like archetype of a manly man eating testicles. It's an interesting correlation, but I mean, I love the myth of it. It's really interesting. It's really exciting. Growing up eating Mexican food, I think in a lot of cultures, particularly you mentioned around the world, we eat what tends to be discarded parts of animals. Mm-hmm. And so for me, I grew up eating menudo, tripas, like eating tripe, you're eating all the parts of the animal that tend to be what less wealthy communities eat. So to me, super interesting. I love them. I love the taste. I love the myth. I love the lore. And the machismo is interesting. I don't love that part, but it's always interesting to see people. Because again, I don't think we eat food, we eat ideas. And the idea of something like a testicle is, it's super interesting.
Yeah. That's the part that resonates with me too. We don't want to waste any part of it. You know, as a longtime vegetarian who's now slowly dabbling with eating meat again, these would have gone to waste otherwise. Aspect of this is it feels really good to me, and I would love to be embracing that more. And that's why I have a quote here from one of the pieces you quoted in your piece, Peyton. Was it's from Modern Farmer, a short quote. Usually about once a year, young stock born in the spring are rounded up and branded, dehorned, and castrated. These are bulls. With a pair coming off each male animal, a rancher could easily end up with hundreds of testicles in an afternoon, minus a few slung over the shoulder for hard-working dogs. A farm could easily end up with more freewheeling gonads than they can handle. So what's a ranch to do? And then there's this professor guy at Emporia State University who's like, I know many ranches that will collect them during branding, and when they are all done, they'll have a party afterwards. So the oysters will be the main meal, and then, you drink beer and whiskey along with it. So that image, that is the romantic West, and I love that. But that's not what we did. Those are not the Rocky Mountain oysters we had. We had the Rocky Mountain oysters. No, we did no castrating. We didn't even there was no mooing. I didn't hear a single moo. But we tried them at the Buckhorn Exchange, where else, which, if you're not familiar, is kind of an interesting restaurant here in Denver, one of our oldest. It's over in La Alma, Lincoln Park at 10th and Osage. We got to talk about it, just what this place is, before we even get to the oysters. Adrian, what does it feel like? What does it look like to walk into this place?
It is an assault on the senses. I think if you've never been and you walk in, you go, what is happening in this place? There are animal heads, there were dioramas, there were pictures of old West, of cowboys, cowgirls. All of the servers are dressed up in some version of a Western world. The menu's printed on what looks like an old newspaper called the Osage Times, I think is what it's called. Mm-hmm. It is by far, like, when you go to a restaurant, you're really paying for the experience. And this is one of those where you're like, okay, I see what I got myself into. It's a lot. It
so is. I mean, as soon as I walked in, I had never been before, but like the experience is the thing at the Buckhorn Exchange. Like the food, we'll talk about it. But when I walked in, I was like, this reminds me of Casa Bonita. That's this thing,
Yeah.
and I was reading about this and like why it kind of felt that way. And, the history of this restaurant's really interesting. They say it's established 1893, which was the year of the silver crash. So like not a big time for miners, or like the economy wasn't really popping at the time. But apparently this guy who they say was part of Buffalo Bill's, gang of cowboys shooting buffalo all across the plains. He was the one who founded it. Henry H. Shorty Scout Zeitz. But he ran it for a long time until I think 49 or in the 50s. And then for a few decades, Buckhorn Exchange was like slowly dying, is what the impression I got, until 1978, when it briefly closed. And then this new group of investors came in, led by Roy Davis and Steve Knowlton, who were these super like rich and influential Aspenites. I did not know this history. It was curiously left out of the menu, the official Buckhorn Exchange history. But this Roy Davis guy, he founded a company to support blind skiers, and Steve Knowlton was a part of the 10th Mountain Division, which is another one of Colorado's great stories, and the owner of the Golden Horn restaurant in Aspen. So someone who knows a little bit about running a restaurant about that emphasizes the Western, the myth making of the West. But yeah, the 70s, that's the same kind of thing, same era as Casa Bonita, when these experiences, telling the stories about this place through a restaurant, it was a trend. Did it feel like that to you, Peyton?
Well, I'm wondering, can you tell how, or do you know how much it changed from like in that like ownership change? Like, did they like revamp it to make it feel kind of like a kitschy experience, or like, when you walk in, it feels very, I don't know. It does feel like like the outside of the building looks like something that has been standing since, the Wild West days. Like it looks that way. But I wonder how much of that is like just like intentional design versus actual history.
Yeah, I don't know. I have no idea. I do think the outside, that's 1890s to me. The inside, pure 70s. Like, I don't know how old that taxidermy is, but I can't imagine that it's 150 or 130, 40 years, I guess, now.
We don't do math on the show.
This episode is brought to you by Tecovas. Because it's stock show season, and the Denver Tecovas store is ready to help you find your next pair of Western boots. If you've ever wondered if you could pull off cowboy boots, you should really try on a pair of Tecovas. Their Western boots for men and women are made by hand from premium bovine and exotic hides in a variety of timeless and fashion-forward styles. And with other classic Tecovas staples like their lineup of denim, apparel, and accessories, you can craft a look that'll get you ready for rodeo season. Step into a Tecovas store and you'll be greeted with a friendly smile and the rich aroma of fine leather goods. Oh my God, Paul, it's from Parks and Rec. It's this day. I don't remember their names, but it's Aziz Ansari and the woman who plays Donna. And they do this day where they like, it's the best day of the year. And they're like, what do we mean? And they're like, cupcakes, massages. And then she goes, fine leather goods. Treat yourself. Tecovas stores also offer complimentary services like free drinks, boot shines, and custom leather stamping or branding that will make your boots truly one of a kind. Stop by your neighborhood Tecovas store in Cherry Creek North today. Grab a cold one and shop the finest leather and Western goods to get ready for the National Western Stock Show. Don't go gently.
Start your wellness journey at Whole Foods Market, where it's Jumpstart January through the 16th. Stock up on supplements with some of the year's biggest savings. Plus, save on air-chilled organic boneless skinless chicken breasts, organic Honey Crisp apples, organic large Hass avocados, and more. And since Whole Foods Market is the only certified organic national grocer, it's easy to make them your wellness destination. Jumpstart your January now at Whole Foods Market.
Should we talk about the meal itself?
Sure.
Let's talk about it.
Peyton, the oysters. Give us your first review. Give us your take.
So I want to start by saying I have tried them before. I tried them years and years ago when I was in high school, and I worked at a restaurant who decided they were going to start serving them, and we were doing like a menu tasting, because he was like they would show all the servers like the new items that were on the menu, and he tried to trick us all and say that these were our new chicken nuggets, and they weren't chicken nuggets, they were clearly bull testicles. But I remember eating it and just being like, this is the nastiest chicken nugget I've ever had. Like it just was like, it tastes like a chicken nugget, but it was like super, like it was like kind of chewy, and there wasn't like a lot of like substance to it. And now, 10, 15 years later, I can say that is exactly how it felt again. It was just, it's not gross to me. I think people who think it's gross are typically like Adrian said, you're grossed out by the idea that you're eating bull testicles. But if I'm talking like strictly as somebody who's like, if I'm talking strictly about the food itself, it just tastes like fried bread on like a super thin, crappy piece of meat. That's how
Adrian?
I feel about it.
Does that feel right to you too?
That's about right. They're not something I reach for because I'm craving them or they're delicious. I think it's the fact that it's fried. It tastes almost like any other fried food. It tastes like the deep fryer a little bit.
That's okay. That's my thing too. And my
Right.
question is, I would like to give them another chance served differently. Can we like pan fry them?
Absolutely. It's hard because they're so gamey.
Like, I mean, breading them and deep frying them.
I think that's the easiest way to cook them probably. But there's so many recipes. I was reading this morning that in Pakistan, they have a dish called kata kat, I think is what it's called. Mexico, like I said, we serve them. Sometimes they're steamed. I know in Spain in the 80s and 90s, it was the thing to give them to children. And I think in France, they call them marmorettes. So there's different ways to do it. And what I want to see in Denver, there's the lore, there's the Rocky Mountain oyster version of it. I want to see, we have James Beard Award winners in the city. We have great restaurants in the city. I want to see some cool versions. I want to see somebody do something with it that makes people excited and maybe not so much surrounded by the lore of the West, or like, oh, look, I'm eating bull testicles. Less of this idea that we're trying something wild and crazy, but just something that could be prepared to be delicious.
Oh, I love that,
Something
Adrian.
that's just like a little bit more honest, like it's meat, it's part of the animal.
Right.
It's not some special, it's not the myth, it's not the Wild West. You're not a cowboy eating this.
Right. I mean, because basically since the state boosters, post World War II, since they started like really pushing the idea of Rocky Mountain oysters, it's always been about novelty, right? It's always been about bringing tourists and saying that you ate bull testicles because because it's a cool thing to say. But I love that call to action, Adrian, because I want to try it in a way that doesn't taste like deep fryer, because I don't like things that are deep fried anyway. So it's like, I'm not going to like those, period. I don't know. Paul, I'm curious, as someone who's newly dabbling in the world of meat again, how did you feel with one of your very first non-vegetarian dishes being a bull testicle?
I mean, it was fine. You two summed it up. There's really not that much to say about it. It's like a little tough.
Yeah.
It's a little gamey. You maybe taste a little bit of that iron to it. You wouldn't have even known that it was a Rocky Mountain oyster if you didn't, order it specifically. I did like when, after I pressed the waitress with maybe too many questions, that she came out with the plate and then a little, a napkin over top, and it was like, oh, what are you doing here? And she revealed, this is the uncooked testicle. And that was quite surprising and exciting, I thought. I don't know how you two felt about it, but it was bigger than I expected. It was like big old like oval, like maybe like, I don't know, 8 inches long, 4 inches tall. It was huge.
Yeah, it's like a roast.
In my research, in the piece I wrote for the newsletter about this, I had to do a lot of Googling. So I saw more pictures of bull testicles than I ever need to see again.
We appreciate your research, Peyton.
Yeah, thank you for that. Okay, so I guess the question is, if this thing is for tourists mostly, if you're wanting to take folks out on the town to show them like a little bit of Denver, would the Buckhorn Exchange be on your list? Would you want to bring people to this place? Is this the story that either of you would want to tell friends, loved ones in town to visit about Denver?
I think it is a really cool part of Denver history. I love the story of it. I I think it's fun. It's really cool to pass by on the outside. But honestly, like Adrian said, when you walk in, it's such an assault on your senses, and like the taxidermy, like, and I'm not someone who's like anti-taxidermy by any means, but like it's so much. I don't know. I don't know. I don't think I would. I think I'd be like, hey, here's this cool piece of Denver history. You can Google some photos of the inside, or if you feel so inclined, check it out. It's cool. I just don't think it was. I don't know. I had never been, and it was a fine experience.
Yeah, Adrian, how about you?
I don't know what this says about me as a friend, but I would absolutely do the opposite. I would tell someone, a friend that was visiting, not much about it. We're going to go to this cool place that's historic, and then just let them walk in and just be surprised, bombarded, blindsided by all of it. I don't know if I'd make them eat the testicles if they didn't want to, but certainly have a drink, experience it, see it, and then, all right, we'll move on to the next thing. But I would definitely take them to this place.
Yeah, I think I'm with you, Adrian, but with one addendum, because I have to say, the Buckhorn Exchange is so expensive. And this is another comparison with Casa Bonita, like pre-South Park Casa Bonita. It's very expensive and the food is fine. So I would say definitely go get the Rocky Mountain oysters, but just go for drinks, drinks and an appetizer. We get out of there for like $30, $40.
I think that's the way to do it, Paul. I think that's a good middle ground between me and Adrian is like go for apps and a drink. And I want to just add, I would eat Old Casa Bonita's enchiladas over the steaks at Buckhorn for sure.
Yeah? Okay.
I did not think they were all that good.
Well, that's saying something.
I know. So
Wow.
do with that info what you will.
Here we are at the end of the Thursday show. That means it's time for our picks for your weekend. Each of us has prepared a personal recommendation. Could be an event, could be a new restaurant opening, an old favorite running a special, or anything else we think would be perfect to do this weekend. We're going to go around and share our picks. Adrian, you want to start us off?
Sure. Let me start off. Mine is the 42nd Annual Colorado Indian and Southwest Art Fest. It is in town. It's at the Convention Center, the 12th through the 14th. So all weekend you can go in, pop in, and I know they have concerts. They have over 150 vendors there. We went last year, and I love that it happens during the stock show because I cannot get enough. I would be at the stock show all day, every day if I could, if I didn't have to work. Maybe I'll do that next year. Maybe I'll take this week off and just live at the stock show. But anyway, the Southwest Art Fest is incredible. They have some native folks. They have anything from art to food to drinks. I saw a falcon last year. They have special birds. They have concerts. They have services. It's an incredible. If you love the stock show and can't get enough, this is the place to be this weekend.
Very cool.
I'm going to second that recommendation, Adrian, because before the recording started, you were like, I hope you guys didn't pick mine. I had yours picked up until a very last minute pivot because it does sound really cool. And for the same reason you said, I think it's awesome that it lines up with the stock show. So like if you can't get enough of that, like, that look at Old West culture, this seems like such a cool place to go.
It's so much fun.
Well, Peyton, what did you pivot to? What is your true recommendation?
I pivoted to the Far East Center because they are doing Lunar New Year events all month long and into the first week of February. So really, you could just take a look at their website and see the different things that they have going on. But they've got lion dancing performances, dumpling making classes, holistic health courses, like Chinese medicine workshops. It sounds like it's so cool. There's something going on like almost every single day there to celebrate the new year. And they do really incredible things to celebrate Asian culture. So that's where I'm going to wander to.
And that's over at Federal and Alameda. All right. My pick is, I've talked about this on the show before, but I am very excited about politics this year. Very excited about these presidential elections, covering them, thinking about them, getting involved. And in the spirit of the primary season that we're just getting started on, I watched a movie last night called The Front Runner, which came out in 2018, which I don't think made much of a splash when it came out. But for us Denverites, it's got a little bit of an extra intrigue to it because it tells the story of Gary Hart, who's the Democrat who ran for president in 1988. He was a Denverite, and he was probably the Denverite who got closest to the White House ever. He was, as the title says, the front runner for the nomination. But he ended up dropping out over this sex scandal. He maybe had an affair, and then the movie sort of tells the story about this controversy and how it played out, with questions about like the role of the media. Should there even been questions about his affair or his marriage? And this is kind of a formative story for our politics the way they are now, and it's all about Denver. Like the whole first act is a really interesting sequence about like planning where to do his campaign announcement. Should it be at Red Rocks? Should it be at the Brown Palace? And so you end up seeing Hugh Jackman out at Red Rocks opening his campaign. It was a fun movie. It was pretty good. It's not great, but it was pretty fun. And for Denverites, I think there's a lot to like there.
That's cool. That sounds like I mean, I would watch that just for like the Denver spotting aspect of it, as somebody who's like not into politics. It'd be a good way to trick me into watching something politicky.
It's interesting, to imagine what, a Denver-based campaign for president would be like, because it's really only happened that one time.
Very cool. I like that.
I'm Team Hugh Jackman. I love Hugh Jackman, and I believe this was the opening night film for the 2018 Denver Film Festival, or 17,
really?
maybe one of those years. It was one of the red carpet presentations, and I can't remember who came out. It definitely wasn't Hugh Jackman, because I would be in jail right now currently if he was there, because I would be the guy that would come up and fanboy hard.
Mm-hmm.
Wow. I learned something new, Adrian.
So you've seen it. Did you like it?
I enjoyed it. I agree with you. I think it's good. It's enjoyable. I like the Denver aspect of it, obviously, but yeah. Not one that sticks out in my mind.
Well, it's available to rent for like $6 on YouTube. That's where I got it. I don't think it's on any of the streaming services, but there you have it. Our official picks for your weekend. We'll drop links to all those in the show notes, but there's way more where that came from. Peyton and Adrian have got way more recommendations in our newsletter, Hey Denver, which you can subscribe to right now at denver.citycast.fm. Adrian, Peyton, thanks for eating Rocky Mountain oysters with me.
It was very enjoyable, Paul.
Thanks, Paul.
Hey, I'm Bree Davies, and I'm here with newsletter editor Adrian Gonzalez. Hey, Adrian.
Good morning, Bree.
It's Western Week here at CityCast Denver, and we've got another Tecovas tip. Adrian, what have you got?
All right, today's Tecovas tip is how to choose the right hat for you. So you're interested in Western wear, you're cowboy curious, as I call it, and you're ready to buy a cowboy hat. The first thing to think about is form and function. I think they can coexist. So what you don't want to do is ever buy something that's going to make you uncomfortable. You're going to walk into a room and feel like you're in a costume. And so trying things on is really important. I know Tecovas has a couple of great options, right? And for here, the weather in Denver, you want to have a felt hat during the winter months. It keeps you a little bit warmer. But when it comes to the summer, I can tell you from experience that, for example, this felt hat that I'm wearing today gets super hot. I'm a little sweaty. So you want to spring for the straw hat in the summer months.
Okay.
It'll keep you cool and you look cool.
Thanks for joining us, Adrian.
Thanks, Bree. Step
into a new pair of Tecovas for wherever your journey takes you. And remember, don't go gently.
That's all for today here on CityCast Denver. If you enjoyed the show, why not take a minute to tell Hugh Jackman about us? Rate the show wherever you get your podcasts and subscribe to our morning newsletter and learn more about us at denver.citycast.fm. We'll be back tomorrow morning with more news from around the city. See you then. You know that line in, do you ever see Tommy Boy? Chris Farley, Tommy Boy. It's like one of the best. And that line he always tries to say, I could get a pretty good look at a T-bone steak if I put my head up a bull's ass, but I'd rather take the butcher's word for it. I've been thinking about that all week. I could get a pretty good look at a Rocky Mountain oyster by sticking my head into a bull's crotch, but I'd rather